We've got a great cast up here, and I see the audience is filling up, so that's great. We've got From Bots to Business Strategy, the power of AI conversation. Explore how AI bots are revolutionizing customer engagement, streamlining support, and unlocking new business opportunities. What's next for conversational AI, and how our business is going to stay ahead in this evolving space. Joining us for this session, we've got Josh Browder of Do Not Pay. We've got Nasrin Mostafadzidi from Vernic, and then Nina Cruavilla from Managing Director at The Daily. Moderating this session is Ron Miller from Bold Start Ventures. Come on out.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I think my mic's on. So welcome everybody. We were talking backstage that some of us don't like the word bot. It sounds a little technical, and when you're dealing with human customers, maybe that's not the best word. But for now, for the purpose of this conversation, I'm probably going to use it. But my panelists can decide how they want to present it. So I'm Ron Miller. I'm the editorial director at Bold Start, where I publish the Fast Forward newsletter and blog. And I write a lot about AI, and it's just, you can't ignore it. It's just happening everywhere. And we've been hearing about the promise of chatbots for years. Going back at least, I think 7-8 years at least, we've seen companies emerge, startups emerge that were making chatbots that interact with customers and provide answers. But large language models have really transformed this capability to communicate with customers, because they literally understand language, right? And that's really changed the game. And we're going to talk to these three panelists about the changing face of this market and how these recent technologies have transformed it. So let's get to it. How has generative AI and large language models transformed the chatbot business? And Josh, you've been in this business for a long time, going back a decade, I think, when you started your company. So when you think about the evolution of this kind of technology, and for lack of a better word, I'm going to call it chatbots, how has this latest wave of technology really transformed things? And maybe you can give us some context, given your background.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So Do Not Pay is a AI consumer advocate. And what that means is we use AI to help give people the power to fight back against big companies and governments. And as Ron mentioned, it started 10 years ago helping people get out of parking tickets. And I'm sure the question you will have is, why do you even need AI to help people get out of a ticket or cancel a subscription? And the reason is we live in such a broken country that these companies make you jump through all these hoops to do that, and that's a great job for AI. And everything really changed, I think, when GPT-4 came out. We were deploying our robots to log into someone's Comcast account and start chatting with Comcast to negotiate people's bills, for example. And what's interesting is these big companies are using AI, and we're using AI. So sometimes it's AI versus AI warfare. And GPT-4 was the first time that we've started seeing lots of successful negotiations. In the past, Comcast would say, okay, I'll give you $10 off your bill, and GPT-3 would give up at that point. But GPT-4 started saying, no, I want $100 or I'm canceling right now. And so I think AI has gotten a lot better at reasoning and a lot more forceful, and that's helped our robots a lot. And the last thing I'll say is that AI has gotten a lot better at connecting to the real world. Large language models are really powerful, but if they're not connected to the real world, then it's meaningless. And so one thing we're doing is sometimes we have AI even send faxes or do phone calls. And in the past few months, I would say with GPT-4o and the kind of speed improvements, AI is finally good enough to hold a phone conversation. And so all of these improvements are really exciting in helping people fight back.
Nazarene, you want to tell us about what you're doing?
Absolutely. So first, thank you so much for having me. So At Vernic, we are an enterprise AI company. We serve the consumer industry and in particular consumer retailers with an agentic AI platform that makes it so easy to ingest your data, any shape or form that it takes, and integrate with all your business APIs so that you can actually spin off these AI agents for knowledge search and discovery with interoperability across all your business functions. So we are a deep tech company. We build a lot of deep domain expert AIs for the sake of our enterprise partners because we want them to get true value out of AIs that are not generic but specific to what they need. To give you an example, we have AIs on the back office, employee facing, which basically help an employee, such as a store staff on the floor of a retailer that you walk in, to, for example, just say out loud, restart all the point of sale kiosks, they're hung again. Or on the consumer facing side, any of you guys could be the shopper on one of the e-com websites that we are powering, and you can literally say, add to my shopping cart the highest rated pink blazer with like a zipper on, and the way we would do it is literally by just looking at individual images of products. And our company is 4 years old. We were born before ChatGPT existed. Me and my co-founder, Omid, we've been spending almost 20 years of our lives doing fundamental research in AI so that we can build these dialogue agents that can actually go about achieving goals. So what is fascinating about what is happening in the state of AI is that there's so much buzz, so much hype, so many marketing terms that are getting thrown at us. So we of course started with like small language models as academics, and then they became larger and larger. LLMs became a thing. But what the yes, but what the business is like. Speaking of the title of the panel, which the bot part I wouldn't like as much, but driving business strategy is what truly we need with AI. And to make it maybe a little more interesting, Josh referred to the term warfare, like the two AIs that are kind of collaborating or fighting against each other. The truth is that there's so much fear mongering that is happening in AI. As someone that has watched the field from inside out for the past 20 years, we've been through so many cycles. The field was born back in 50s, and we've seen it all. We've gone through AI winters and whatnot. What AI truly is not quite there yet. Believe it or not, as someone that spent my lifetime on common sense reasoning, we don't even have AIs that have the reasoning capabilities of a dog yet, let alone a human being. So as far as we've come, which is the most thrilling moment of my life personally, because we would not have anticipated it to be this amazing, we have long ways to go to quite get there where you could have AI warfares and whatnot, which again, I would try to avoid. So it's all about driving business strategy in the enterprise side. It's all about solving for the business bottom line while driving the top line. And that's what this moment of AI is going to be like.
Before I get to you, I would just want to ask Nazreen one more question about that. You said you started before GPT-4 came out, which was kind of a, can be an explosion moment of like, oh my God, we can talk to this thing and it can talk back to us and make sense. You had a business, but then all of a sudden this completely changed how you do business. So how did you pivot to that? Like, and I know that you're somebody who's been researching this for your entire professional life, but how did you know that this was the moment and kind of said, okay, you and your co-founder said, we have to do something about this now?
Yes, excellent question. Actually, when ChatGPT happened, we were about to come out of stealth, so we just kind of delayed it by a bit because the whole market was just reacting to this amazing things that our friends at OpenAI could, of course, pull off. Believe it or not, we didn't pivot. We stayed put. We did this very unconventional thing of just believing in something that we had already planned for, which was to drive, value for enterprises. We haven't changed almost anything about our entire tech stack, our infrastructure, our modeling. Again, we were insiders to the field. We were already using a variety of specialized models as well as LLMs, open source ones, the ones that we had trained in-house. So all it was a moment of awakening, which tremendously helped us, right? Enterprises couldn't quite understand what we meant when we said that we will build a centralized AI brain for you that has domain general intelligence, and suddenly they could understand. So that was amazing. But of course, we were on the receiving end of the noise, right? Everyone and their uncles has pivoted to, like from crypto and whatnot to AI, just because it's a hot new thing. So that is, I think, the biggest challenge that we were seeing, and I think just it took a lot of resilience to stay put, not try to change,
Right.
just listen and do what we were so good at, which was to build AIs that can truly drive business strategies of these Fortune 500 companies that we work with. But big kudos to our friends again, our fellow other AI scientists at OpenAI that could manifest this AI awakening for the whole society.
Yeah, I want to bookmark that point about CEOs and just C-suite people suddenly totally understanding what this meant. But first, I want to let Nina talk about how large language models impacted your business, and you work more from a developer perspective. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Nina, co-founder of Daily. We power voice agents. Specifically, we're the team behind PipeCat. It's the most widely used framework. It's 100% open source to build voice agents. So these are agents that can talk in real time and have a natural conversation with you. And what's interesting about our space is enterprises have been investing in voice technologies for a long time. They've plowed billions of dollars over decades into things like call centers, IVR. With voice agents, we see enterprises and companies building for use cases like call centers, SMB, virtual front desks, co-pilots, device and IoT interfaces. Essentially, there are billions of business phone calls placed every day, billions of consumer phone calls. And we all know the experience of you call somewhere and you're put on hold. You call your doctor's office, you call the hotel. You don't really need to be put on hold. But at the same time, when humans talk, there's a lot that goes into conversation.
Right. There's a lot of unspoken kind of clues and
It's amazing what we as humans know what to do in a real-time conversation. For example, if I were to interrupt you, you know how to handle interruptions. You know when I'm pausing or when I reach the end of a phrase. It takes a lot of code to get an AI to talk like a human. So you were asking about how ChatGPT and LLMs have changed what we do. We've been working with real-time and voice and video before ChatGPT. We were working on infrastructure for human-to-human calls. We power video calls for some of the largest companies and organizations in America and globally. But what happened when ChatGPT came out, it became pretty obvious that enterprises would realize a lot of value if they could have a voice interface to sort of these AI experiences. So a lot of the infrastructure we built out for ultra-low latency is the same infrastructure and tooling you use for a human to talk to an AI. And what's interesting to us is this is a totally new technology. Voice agents specifically have really accelerated in just the last year. But one reason we're seeing enterprises immediately realize value from it is because it maps onto existing business problems. We don't see enterprises coming to us and being like, I have to use AI, like, what do I need to do? What they say coming to us is, I have a call center. I need to improve hold time. I need to improve time to resolution. I'm a hospital. I run countless front desks. I have limited staffing for my front desk. I need more resources to follow up with patients. And what LLMs have unlocked for us is really changing what we can do with staffing and tapping into legacy databases to give customers much more positive experiences when interacting with the companies they have to deal with.
Yeah, I want to come back to staffing, and I want to come back to one other thing you said. But first, I want to go back to what you said, which was about awareness, how the release of ChatGPT kind of raised awareness, and it raised it for consumers as well as businesses. And since you brought it up, why don't you talk about that moment where, like, suddenly you didn't have to explain what you did, that you had been a PhD, researcher, and you're trying to explain it to people who have no concept really of what you're talking about, or they may understand it from like a machine learning standpoint, but not this kind of. I think everybody had this moment where like, oh, now I see what this can do. Like even people who didn't know what AI was suddenly knew what AI was. So how did that impact your business as a, kind of an enterprise-facing company?
I think consumer expectations are constantly rising, and if you're not, only the paranoid survive. So when I started my business, it was just like templates for tickets, and admittedly today you could just use ChatGPT to generate a template to get out of your ticket. So you constantly have to be innovating, otherwise consumer expectations will rise past you, and I think that's the biggest thing for us.
But consumers were also expecting to have this kind of interface now, right? It was sort of like the moment when iPad came out in 2009, and everybody expected that you could do this, Now suddenly everybody expects you can ask questions and it will give you answers.
Yeah.
When we launched our bot in 2016, people were really confused. They were like, why is it a chatbot? Why don't you use a button-style interface? And I think chatbots work really well because people write such nonsense in the interface. It can translate this user gibberish into actually something actionable. And that's what we discovered when we launched our bot. And now it's helped us because everyone expects bots and talks to them all the time.
Yeah. Similar. I mean, it's been the obsession of my life to make human language the new machine interface across the board, right? Which is why I worked on what we used to call dialogue agents, which are these AI interfaces that help you just have your own English language or whatever language you're using to basically make decisions, to drive whatever agenda you have. What happened in our business, which was very, very interesting, was, as I mentioned, we would talk to enterprise executives and tell them that, look, these dumb search bars on your .com website and these dumb, again, chatbots, the terminology that I'm trying to avoid, on your website, which are basically just a bunch of scroll, tap of buttons, and then connect to agent and whatever it is gonna be the legacy. And you need to think AI native, which is gonna be the future. They wouldn't believe that consumers would want to change how they interface with that digital environment, or they wouldn't believe that when a shopper walks into a store, they would want to actually get advice on what to buy, right? What is the healthiest thing, cheapest thing, whatever criteria they have, using an AI, which basically becomes their concierge. And of course, lo and behold, the second the technology works, it's all about time. What we have as maybe the biggest enemy of us is just time. Change, it requires time. Consumers need time to adjust. Enterprises in particular need decades to adjust, which reminds me of how the story goes that, of course, Microsoft, in terms of market cap, was 10x of IBM at some point when IBM was still getting so much more revenue out of enterprises, just because enterprises are so slow to move, and look now where they are. And the other fascinating example that comes to my mind is something I hear from our Fortune 500 customers is that all of them still have mainframes. That's just crazy. I've never seen a mainframe in my life, right? But they are operating off of it. They're serving all of us, hundreds of millions of Americans. So change takes time. I think this moment of AI awakening was super helpful, but still, I think it will take a few more years, if not decades, for it to become the status quo. But this is definitely the biggest breakthrough moment that we've had in technology after PC revolution, because we have a new human-machine collaboration in the way that we could never have manifested without AI.
Yes. And so from a developer perspective, you have a developer community who's using your open source product. And I'm wondering, I'm sure there were developers who kind of were familiar with AI, but this kind of made it much more accessible to them. So how did that impact your business?
Oh, 100%. So I think one thing that's really interesting about this moment we're in is it's both transformative. I mean, it's incredible to hear how your experience, how your experience serving consumers has changed as AI has become more powerful and working with enterprises. So it's transformative, but this is also just the tip of the iceberg. And one thing we've seen specifically with real-time voice is people understanding and developers understanding that this is an entirely new way to interface with AI, with machines and information. So when ChatGPT first came out, everyone was just sort of texting with it. And when you text or text chat with AI, it's okay for there to be a couple seconds latency. Like you type something in, you wait a couple seconds and it comes back. You can't have that in a real-time conversation with a voice agent, right?
You'd be like, hello? Hello, are you
Right.
there?
Something is wrong. Something is wrong if the latency is too high, if the agent mispronounces your name. Right? There's so many things. The blockers right now that companies often face with voice agents are making them very, very responsible and very, very reliable. And what we do as a developer company is give product and engineering teams at enterprises the tools they need to create lifelike, voice agents that can have these conversations. So you were asking about, developers and open source, how they're thinking about the experiences they're building. What's interesting is we almost see a few different buckets. One, in enterprise, what's really useful, as I said before, is when enterprises come to us with very specific business goals, because they've been working in the voice space a while. So they know what they need to do with their call center or with their front desk or with patient-facing workflows. We also have another large part of our community which is really excited about, well, what kind of new experiences can I build to interact with information? So, for example, one kind of very hot take we have is that pretty soon we're all going to think it's pretty normal to have an AI friend in our group chats with our human friends. And we're going to have the sort of parasocial relationships with AIs that we now, some of us have with human celebrities right now, right? So what does our human experience look like when you can access AI intuitively, when it's not just about typing, but when interacting with AI becomes much more lifelike and social?
So that brings up, and we're already down to 8 minutes, but I want to talk about trust. Stefan yesterday in his opening ceremony talked about one of the obstacles to people using this technology is they have to trust it. And if it doesn't give you a good answer, whether you're an employee, whether you're a consumer, wherever you are in this chain, you're going to not trust it. And if you don't trust it, as humans, it's really hard to get that trust back of machines. I saw something not long ago where the person said, if a bot makes a mistake, or AI makes a mistake, people won't forgive it as much as they would a human making a mistake. And so if you have a human customer service agent who says something wrong, the person's a human. If a bot does it, you're going to be angry, right? So, how do you build the guardrails and the trust into this technology so that people use it and you don't have many chances to get it right? Yes. And I want to start with Josh because he's consumer facing.
No, this has been a big challenge for us, and especially with voice agents. One concrete challenge is actually having the AI do fast responses, but also truthful responses on the phone. So about 6 months ago, we started doing voice phone calls where our AI would actually phone up companies on behalf of consumers. And for liability purposes, we tell our AI never to lie, stay truthful, and it introduces itself as the user's assistant. It doesn't say AI assistant, it just says the user's assistant. So it phoned up this telephone company, and it was trying to, I think, get a PIN to cancel someone's telephone contract. And the human agent on the other end said, okay, I'm happy to help, but what's your name? And the AI was really confused because it doesn't have a name and it didn't want to lie. And so it said, no, I'm the assistant. And the human agent said, no, I understand you're the assistant, but what's your name? And this went back and forth like 4 times. And finally, the AI said, okay, you can call me Alex. And this is really interesting because it wasn't lying, but it was kind of overcoming the challenge because it didn't say its name is Alex. It's just like, you can call me Alex. And so we really have to be concerned about hallucinations and lying in those situations. The one thing I'm really hopeful for, and I wish there was more awareness around this, is the cost reduction of prompting and all of the leading AI models. 2 years ago, GPT-4, the same quality model today is 200 times cheaper. And that was achieved because there's an 80 times kind of reduction in OpenAI's pricing, and then DeepSeek came and reduced prices further for the same quality of model. And the way our business works is it's priced on the input and it's priced on the output. And we don't really mind too much about the output because we're not generating novels, we're just generating chats. But the input is really important. And the more you can feed into the input in a cost-effective way, the more truthful and reliable you can get it to be.
And Nazreen, how do you deal with the trust factor?
So let me put on my AI scientist hat on. Hallucination is a problem that I'm guessing is there anyone in the audience that doesn't know what hallucination is? No one, right? Oh, one person. Okay, so AI is notorious, since again the AI awakening happened, is notorious for making mistakes where it just generates things supposedly off of the thin air, which is inaccurate. So we foresaw this again 4 years ago when we started the company, knowing that we want to serve enterprises, knowing that we have worked with so many other LLMs and whatnot that we have built in-house. Some of them, we knew that AI, in order to be helpful, needs to be what we call, the name of our technology, our patented technology, is contextual retrieval generation. So what does that mean? It means that our AIs, we've built them so that they don't hallucinate, they don't make those mistakes by virtue of contextualizing themselves in an environment, which means deeply semantically understanding that environment. It could be, again, a .com website serving a consumer. It could be a back office portal serving an employee. It deeply semantically understands that by virtue of basically knowing where it can go, what it can do, and then it does retrieval, which means it doesn't generate off of the World Wide Web. It knows that business and that business only and retrieves, which is RAG, basically similar, the thing that now everyone knows and talks about, and then we generate off of that. So contextual retrieval generation, CRG, is how we mitigate hallucinations. But the bottom line is very clear. In order for AI to be truly helpful, which is literally our mission statement, it needs to be not just guardrailed, but also work within the business workflows, like how you want to drive a sales conversation as a business, how you want to present your brand as an enterprise, how you want to basically optimize, right, for your bottom line or top line. These should be all like bells and whistles that are fully controllable, which is, again, what we've built into our AI platform for the past 4 years. And it's really a must-have. And I agree that AI has a higher bar to succeed, as the fellow panelists were alluding to, and the only way to mitigate it is to build, again, AIs with deep domain expertise, so that it's not the average of the World Wide Web.
So before I have you go, I rather than have you go into that particular answer, I wanted to cover agents before the end, and we only have 2 minutes left. So agents obviously introduce complexity because they are doing multiple things. They may go in and cancel an order. They may go in and have, generate a label. They may go in and, order something different. So they're crossing systems. They're very, they're much more sophisticated than just a chat AI. So can you talk a little bit about how agents, what you're doing with agents and how that has changed this year?
Yeah, everyone is thinking of 2025 as the year of agents.
Yeah.
And what we do with voice agents, real-time voice agents, is very much in that domain because you want these agents to have natural-sounding real-time conversations, to do things autonomously, to be able to look up things in legacy enterprise databases, in your knowledge bases, and to be able to effectively improve the customer experience, right? So you need the agent to be autonomous in some ways. And from a developer point of view, what we really emphasize is giving enterprises the tools they need to build flexibly to accomplish the various workflows they set out to do. When you're dealing with a consumer, what we're all trying to get away from is that very kind of pre-2019, you press one button or you get some very canned responses. With agents, between prompting, between integrating it with your legacy enterprise systems, you want to train the agent just as the way you train your human agents to really deal organically with these conversations with consumers.
Yeah, so we're under 30 seconds, so I think we're better off kind of cutting it off here rather than going over. But I wish I had more time with these panelists because they've been so great to talk to and work with, and I hope you'll give them a hand. Thanks, guys.